Jung. You might recognize that name when I covered the shadow. Shameless plug here. The shadow was only one of Jung's thoughts, and I would like to cover some others that he had throughout his life. I do not believe I covered much of anything when it comes to Jung himself, but I really do not want to go back to a video I know I will cringe at, so I will start assuming I covered nothing. Carl Jung was born the 26th of January 1875 in Kisville, Switzerland, the son of Paul Jung, the local pastor, and his mother Emily, along with two brothers. His early years were lonely, with not much to do, so in order to fill the time of day, he developed an amazing and vivid imagination. I assume there were not many children his age, seeing that he spent a lot of his time observing the behavior of the adults in his life, such as his parents and teachers. He very much disliked school and underperformed. But with time and eventual maturity, Jung learned to apply himself and devoted himself willingly to his education. Jung would start actively reading and studying by himself, mostly religious texts and philosophy. Sometime later, Jung decided not to follow the family's path of religion, but rather went off to become a psychologist. In order to do so, first went to the University of Basel until 1900 to study medicine, and later went to the University of Zurich to fully complete his medical degree in 1902. Going back to 1900, he worked at an asylum, where he was under the direction of usn'l. There, Jung was introduced to what we would consider today the classical study of mental illness. He studied the seemingly illogical responses to words or thoughts and found that they were likely caused by emotionally charged associations held in the subconscious, likely put in the subconscious by childhood trauma or because of their disagreeableness. With that success under his belt, Jung opened his own private practice. As Jung became more well-known in his field, he became one of the closest collaborators of the groundbreaking psychologist Sigmund Freud. The partnership started in 1907, but unfortunately ended only 5 years later, in 1912. They were what you could consider friends, but in the later stages, they would disagree on the very fundamentals of each other's thoughts and theories. The friendship would fully end after Jung's publication of A Psychology of the Unconscious in 1912, the ideas within being contrary to many of Sigmund Freud's ideals. After falling out with Freud, Jung seemed to fall into madness. He isolated himself and fell into deep deliberation, allowing the irrational side of himself to shine through. There he conducted psychological experiments on himself, keeping detailed notes of the experience. This is where he came up with the collective unconscious. The collective unconscious is, according to Jung, the universal elements of all of human history passed down to the next generation, not unlike biological evolution. Evident by similar stories, arts, and symbolisms of different cultures at different times. Jung said the collective unconscious can be found in dreams, dreams being in Jung's eyes a very important tool to see what lie within the personal unconscious and the collective unconscious. Something else that I believe Jung thought of at this time was the concept of the introvert and the extrovert. Jung said that there were two basic classifications of personalities. Those personalities are separated by the way they interact with the world. The introvert is self-involved and is more often withdrawn into their own little inner world. The extrovert finds more value in the world through social interaction and has more interest outside one's own mind. Now, no one is 100% one or the other, but most people lean to one side, whether it be slightly or drastically. Jung also traveled a fair bit. From 1924 to 1925, he lived among the Puebloan Indians. In 1925 to 1926, he went to Kenya, and then to Egypt, and later India. Throughout Jung's visits, the Puebloan encounter I find to be of note. Jung was speaking to the chief about the traditions of his tribe. The chief spoke. Yes, we are a small tribe, and these Americans, they want to interfere with our religion. They should not. Because we are the sons of the Father, the Son. He who goes there, that is our Father. We must help him daily to rise over the horizon and walk over heaven. And we do not do it for ourselves only. We do it for America. We do it for the whole world. Jung said there was no mental illness in these people. That these people of the tribe were all highly functioning members of their own society. They did not suffer from anxiety or depression. There was no need to fill their bodies with drugs and pills just to function. These people were mentally fit because they had a shared belief and shared goal. They were all actors in something greater than themselves. This is likely why Western civilization is collapsing. Do we have anything to even live for, let alone a shared goal? The great man unfortunately died on January 6, 1961, at the ripe old age of 85. I cannot find much information on his death, so I'm going to assume that it was uneventful. To be honest, I can't really critique the man too much. However, what I can complain about is his tendency towards a more mystical consideration of the human mind. And because of that mystical thought process, I cannot necessarily give a counter-argument because, admittedly, I do not understand psychology enough to even begin. I do agree with Jung on things such as the shadow, introvert, extrovert, and other such things. But when it comes to things such as the collective unconscious, either Jung is crazy or everything is just flying over my head. But nevertheless, I do truly believe that Jung was an incredibly smart and wise man. It is only that I believe I cannot fully understand him. Of course, I did not cover everything that Jung thought, said, or did. But of course, I only did learn new things while researching and writing about him. It was fun as all these videos are, and I feel that I am only growing in what little knowledge I have, and I hope that you learned something new as well. If I got anything wrong, please let me know, as I'm sure you will. Now, take care.